The first thing Kwame noticed when he woke up wasn't the cold sweat or the familiar ache. In his chest, it was the wet footprints leading from his bedroom door to the kitchen, as if someone had walked through his house with bare, dripping feet while he slept. He sat up slowly, his heart hammering against his ribs. The morning light filtered through the curtains he'd forgotten to close again, casting pale rectangles across the polished concrete floor. The footprints glistened in the sunlight, each toe clearly defined, each step deliberate. They were small, delicate, exactly Amma's size. Kwame rubbed his eyes until he saw stars. When he opened them again, the footprints remained. It had been 6 months since the accident. 6 months since the flooded road during the rainy season had taken Amma away from him in a twisted symphony of metal and screaming brakes. 6 months of dreams where she visited him, standing at the foot of their bed with that sad smile he remembered from their last fight. The one about him working too late at the bank, missing dinner again, choosing his career over their marriage. But dreams didn't leave water on the floor. He followed the trail through his house, past the living room where her favorite chair still held the impression of her body, past the kitchen where her tea mug sat unwashed in the sink like a shrine. He couldn't bear to disturb. The footprints led to the back door, where they simply stopped. Kwame pressed his face against the glass, searching the small compound for any sign of an intruder. Nothing moved except the wind through Amma's vegetable garden, now overgrown and wild with cassava plants and tomatoes growing without care. He checked the lock twice. Still secure. The security system showed no breaches. He spent the morning with a mop and bucket, erasing the evidence of something that couldn't have happened. But as he worked, he found himself humming, unconsciously at first, then with growing recognition. It was Amma's song, the one she'd sung while cooking, a traditional Akan melody that had filled their house with warmth. He hadn't hummed it since the funeral. He stopped, mop dripping forgotten in his hands. He hadn't hummed anything since the funeral. That night, Kwame lay awake staring at the ceiling, every shadow pregnant with possibility. He'd always been a rational man, a bank manager, who lived in a world of numbers and certainties. But grief, he'd learned, was its own kind of mathematics, calculating loss in measurements the heart couldn't comprehend. Sleep finally claimed him around 3 a.m., and with it came the dream that had haunted him for months. Amma stood at the foot of their bed, her dark hair tied with the colourful head wrap she wore to church. She wore the bright candy pattern dress from their wedding, the one she'd gotten soaked in during that sudden downpour in Cape Coast when they'd laughed and danced in the rain like children. She was always soaked in the dreams. "You're not taking care of yourself," she said, her voice carrying that familiar note of gentle reproach in Chi-accented English. Water dripped from her clothes onto the floor, forming a dark stain that spread toward his feet. "I'm trying," Kwame whispered, the words thick with sleep and sorrow. "No, you're not. You're hiding." Amma stepped closer, her bare feet squelching with each movement. "You won't even open my letters." "What letters?" But she was already fading, dissolving like watercolor in rain, leaving only the echo of her voice. "Check the mailbox. Kwame, I've been trying to reach you." He woke with a start, the dream clinging to him like cobwebs. The bedroom felt different somehow, colder, despite the humid acre heat. And there, on Amma's side of the bed, was a damp impression in the sheets, as if someone had been lying there. Kwame bolted upright, his hand flying to the spot. The fabric was wet and cold, soaked through to the mattress. He pressed his palm against it, feeling the chill seep into his skin. This was real, tangible, impossible. He stumbled to the window and looked out at their mailbox at the compound gate, standing like a sentinel against the pink dawn sky. He hadn't checked it in weeks. What was the point? Bills came to his phone, and condolence cards had stopped arriving months ago. But something white fluttered from the box like a flag of surrender. Kwame dressed quickly and walked barefoot across the dew-covered compound, past the bougainvillea that Amma had planted along the fence. His heart pounded with each step. The mailbox overflowed with envelopes, far more than should have accumulated in the weeks since he'd last checked. Most were addressed in handwriting he didn't recognize. But there, mixed among the others, were letters written in Amma's careful script. His hand shook as he pulled them out. 7 letters, all addressed to him, all postmarked after the accident. The paper felt real beneath his fingers, the ink sharp and dark. Emma's handwriting was unmistakable, the way she wrote her. English letters with slight curves influenced by her Adinkra symbol knowledge. The elegant way she signed her name. The first letter was dated a week after her funeral. My dearest Kwame, I know this must be confusing. I'm confused too. I don't understand where I am or how I can write to you, but I had to try. You looked so lost at the service. Standing there in that black suit I always said made you look too serious. You know I preferred you in the white dashiki from our wedding. I'm in a place that's neither dark nor light, neither warm nor cold. It's like being underwater, but I can breathe. I can see you sometimes, especially when you're dreaming. I've been trying to visit you, to let you know I'm not gone. Not entirely. Please don't be afraid. All my love. Emma. Kwame's legs gave out, and he sank to his knees on the red earth, the letter trembling in his hands. This had to be some kind of sick joke, a cruel prank by someone who knew about their marriage, their private jokes. But the handwriting, it was perfect, down to the way she wrote Kwame with that little flourish on the final E. He tore open the second letter, then the third, reading with growing horror and impossible hope. Each one was more detailed than the last, describing a liminal space between life and death where she waited, watched, and slowly learned how to cross back into the world of the living. The final letter was dated yesterday. Kwame, I'm getting stronger. I can hold things now, touch things. I made it to the house last night. I think you saw my footprints. You always were observant. I know you think you're going crazy. You're not. This is real, even if it shouldn't be. Love is stronger than death. Kwame. My grandmother always said that, "Di den sen owo," and it's true. My love for you, my need to make things right between us, it's keeping me tethered. I'm coming home tonight. For real this time, not just in dreams. We need to talk about that last fight, about all the things we never said. I need you to understand that I wasn't angry when I died. I was coming home to apologize. I was coming home to you. Wait for me. Emma. The letters scattered around him as Kwame buried his face in his hands. This couldn't be happening. People didn't come back from the dead. They didn't write letters from beyond the grave. But the evidence surrounded him, the footprints, the wet bed, the letters in Emma's unmistakable hand. He gathered the letters with shaking fingers and stumbled back to the house. The day passed in a haze of disbelief and desperate hope. He found himself cleaning frantically, as if preparing for a guest. He made Emma's favorite meal, jollof, rice with grilled tilapia and kontamaya, stew, and set 2 places at the table. As evening fell, Kwame sat in the living room. The letters spread before him on the coffee table like tarot cards predicting an impossible future. Every sound made him jump, the settling of the house, the whisper of wind through the windows, the distant sounds of Accra traffic and evening prayers. From the mosque down the street. At 11 p.m., he heard the back door open. The sound was soft, almost tentative, like someone trying not to wake a sleeping house. Kwame's breath caught in his throat as footsteps echoed through the kitchen. Wet, deliberate steps that he remembered from his morning discovery. Kwame Emma's voice drifted through the house, exactly as he remembered it but somehow different, deeper, with an echo that suggested vast spaces. I'm home. She appeared in the doorway, and Kwame's heart stopped. It was Emma, but not Emma. She looked exactly as she had in life, the same warm brown eyes, the same gentle smile, but water dripped constantly from her hair and clothes, pooling at her feet. Her skin had a pale, luminescent quality, like moonlight on water. "Hello, my love," she said, stepping into the room. Each footstep left a dark stain on the floor. "I told you I was coming home." Kwame couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. She was here, really here. Not a dream or a hallucination, but Emma, his Emma, standing in their living room as if death had been nothing more than a long journey. "You're not real," he whispered, his voice cracking. Emma's smile faltered. "I'm as real as I can be. Love brought me back, Kwame. Love and unfinished business." She moved closer, and he could smell her, that familiar scent of shea, butter and the jasmine soap she loved. "We need to talk about that night. Emma, you died. I saw your body. I buried you. I know. She sat beside him on the couch, the cushion squelching under her weight. Water soaked through his clothes where she touched him. But her hand was solid, real. Death isn't what we thought it was. It's not an ending. It's just different, harder to navigate. Kwame stared at her, his mind reeling. The fight we had before you left. I was coming back to apologize, Emma interrupted. I was driving too fast because I wanted to get home to you. I wanted to tell you that you were right, that we'd grown apart, but it wasn't too late to fix things. I wanted to tell you I loved you more than my pride. Tears streamed down Kwame's face. I was such a fool. The bank didn't matter. Nothing mattered except us. I know. Emma's thumb traced the line of his jaw, her touch cold but achingly familiar. That's why I came back. We can't leave things the way they were. We need closure, both of us. They talked through the night, working through months of unspoken words and buried resentments. Emma told him about the space between worlds where she'd been waiting, a grey realm of memory and longing where the dead lingered when they couldn't let go. She described the effort it took to cross back, the way love had been her anchor and her compass. As dawn approached, Emma began to fade around the edges like a photograph left in sunlight. I can't stay much longer, she said, her voice growing distant. This isn't my world anymore. Then I'll come with you, Kwame said desperately, reaching for her. If love brought you back, it can take me forward. No, Emma's form solidified with the force of her refusal. You have a life to live. Kwame, you have years ahead of you, love to give and receive. I came back to set you free, not to trap you with me. I don't know how to live without you. You'll learn. And when your time comes, really comes, I'll be waiting. She stood, water cascading from her dress in streams. But that time isn't now. She walked to the window and looked out at the sunrise, painting the acre sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, her form becoming more translucent with each passing moment. Will I see you again? Kwame asked. Emma turned back to him one last time, her smile radiant despite the sadness in her eyes. In dreams, sometimes. But not like this. This was goodbye, Kwame. The goodbye we never got to say. She stepped toward the door, then paused. Take care of my garden, will you? I always loved how the tomatoes looked when they were ripe. And then she was gone, leaving only the memory of water and the faint scent of jasmine in the air. Kwame sat in the empty room as morning light filled the space, feeling hollow but somehow lighter. The grief was still there. It would always be there. But the crushing weight of unfinished business had lifted. They'd said goodbye. They'd forgiven each other. He could finally begin to heal. Outside, Emma's vegetable garden swayed in the morning breeze. Wild and overgrown but still beautiful. Kwame made himself a cup of tea, the first time. He'd used anything but her special mug since the accident, and walked outside to tend to the plants she'd loved. As he worked, pulling weeds and watering the struggling vegetables, he found himself humming Emma's traditional song again. But this time, it didn't hurt. This time, it felt like a celebration of everything they'd shared, everything they'd been. Love was stronger than death, Emma had said. But love was also strong enough to let go. The garden bloomed under his care that season, more beautiful than it had ever been in Emma's lifetime. And sometimes, when the Harmattan wind was just right and the light fell at the perfect angle, Kwame could swear he heard her laughter, carried on the breeze, not calling him to follow, but encouraging him to stay, to live, to love again when he was ready. The letters from beyond the grave stopped coming. The dreams became ordinary dreams of memory rather than visitation. And slowly, carefully, Kwame began to build a life that honored both his love for Emma and his need to move forward. But he never forgot the night she came home to say goodbye, or the lesson she'd taught him, that sometimes the most loving thing the dead can do for the living is to let them go.